podcast. My name is Terry and I will be your host. Today we are going to talk a little bit about how I've got my mojo back, or at least a little bit of my mojo back. But first, before I get into any of those things, I want to just acknowledge I'm recording in my basement as I usually do. My husband is just outside the door. So if you hear anything, my apologies in advance for anything, any noise that you might hear over top of the recording. So my apologies for that. Second, I want to say hi, Mom, because I forgot last time. I was so out of practice. I forgot to say hi, Mom, so I'm going to get that right out of the way right now. And the last thing in the introduction is a big thank you to anyone who has joined me to watch this podcast over the last year and a bit. The Podiversary, the 1-year Podiversary, was on July 17th. And I am having a blast still. I'm really enjoying doing this, so I really enjoy I'm so glad that you're willing to give me some of your time and spend some time with me over the last year. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining me. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. We are over 100 subscribers right now. I don't know. Let's see if I can pull it up quickly. I remember a couple of episodes ago, it was a while back now, but a couple of episodes ago, we were at just shy of 100, and now we're at 137 subscribers, so we're climbing up there. And that just gives me a lot of joy. I don't do this for any other reason other than just to get the kickback and the serotonin or the dopamine or whatever it is when I know that people are enjoying spending time with me, so I appreciate that. I will also acknowledge, if you are new here, my haircut is not one of choice. I am a current cancer patient and I was undergoing chemotherapy, so I've completed that and am now doing immunotherapy, and my hair is growing back very slowly, but I've got a little bit of a peach fuzz on the top, so I will just acknowledge that right off the bat. If you go back in previous episodes, you will see that I choose to normally have very long dark hair. I'm not sure if that's going to change when it comes back in this time, but we shall see what the future holds. Our next segment is called Mug Up. Mug Up is where we talk about what I am drinking, what's in my cup. I don't have anything in my cup today. I just finished a cup of tea, and like I mentioned in my previous episode, I'm not drinking too much tea at the moment. I have had, with the chemotherapy and the radiation, I had some really nasty kidney problems, and black tea is not good for kidney stones. So I have had 1 cup of tea and I will be drinking water from now on, but I just wanted to acknowledge that in this segment you won't see me drinking anything other than maybe a glass of water, but I don't even have a glass of water near me, which I normally have a bottle of water hanging around all the time so that I can have water basically at any given point in the day in any part of the house, but I don't actually see one around me where I'm at right now, so we'll get through this podcast and I'll go get a big glass of water. The next segment is called La. La is where we talk about what I'm wearing. Again, if you're new here, I'm originally from Newfoundland, and La is short for look. Basically what I've used it for is look at what she's wearing. So I'll take one off because they're harder for me to get up, my feet to get up into the camera. This is a vanilla sock pattern. I've talked about it in the past. You can go to previous episodes and find my vanilla sock pattern, but I do a Turkish cast on, I increase the toe, I do a toe up, Turkish cast on, increase to the toe, do 72 stitches on a 2mm needle and go all the way up, and then I do an afterthought heel. But these are knitted with Blue Brick. If you're not familiar with Blue Brick, she's a yarn dyer in Ontario. A while back she went viral for doing the wingspan shawl with her ibis colorway. This is called, I believe it's called Autumn. It might be called Autumnal, but this is a gradient colorway that sort of, I started it on the dark red. It's faded quite a bit because I wear these a lot. sort of goes out to yellow, and then I went back and did the heel in the green. So that is what I'm wearing. Nice cozy socks. Not because it's winter or it requires knit items to stay warm, but my feet have been cold of late. When we go to bed at night, we leave all of our windows open so that not all of our windows, but we leave open some of our windows so our house can cool down in the nighttime. And then during the day, in the morning it starts out relatively cool, and then it will warm up throughout when the sun comes up. So in the morning my feet do get a little bit chilly, and I want to make sure that I keep my toes nice and toasty. The next segment is called Whatta Ya At. Whatta Ya At is where we talk about what I am working on. Now, I will say the last episode I didn't have a lot to talk about, and this episode I have so much more to share. I just felt a massive surge in my mojo, my knitting mojo, and my crafting mojo. So I have a couple of finished objects. I have a couple of Whatta Ya At works in progress. I'm so excited to share them with you. I will say one of them is currently blocking, so I will put a photo in a moment, but I don't have everything with me. I only actually have a picture of the pattern of one and the work in progress of the other, but I will just work through those while you join me. So the first thing I'm going to talk a little bit about is the Jelly Roll Blanket by Kay Jones. I've shown that recently. I'm not going to show that today. It's way upstairs and it would require me to do 2 sets of stairs, and I just wasn't feeling it. The other thing is, the last time you saw it, it was in a massive tangle. I have untangled everything. I've rewound all the yarn, and my dog is not allowed anywhere near anything in my craft room, even though my husband keeps opening the door. I keep my door closed to my craft room. Actually, we have a ball of yarn that I just recovered from, I believe this is Lily. Yeah, this is Lily and Pine. I cannot remember the colorway name, but my husband had opened the door to my craft room, and this little ball of yarn had been chewed apart and had been all tangled up, so I rewound all of it and all of its little pieces. I'm all over the place today. I'll apologize. So we'll go back to where I was when I was talking about the Jelly Roll Blanket, and where my pup had shredded some of the yarn, and I had to rewind everything and start to sort of weave in ends and whatnot to make sure that everything was going to work okay in the colorway that I was working with. So what I have for you is probably, I'm going to guess, about 6 inches of progress on the Jelly Roll Blanket. Again, that's why I'm not going to share it with you, because it's not something you haven't already seen. You've seen all the colors that I'm working with, but I do not need to show you 6 inches of progress. It's very little. The Jelly Roll Blanket is by Kay Jones. I don't recall if I said that already, but I will put everything that I talk about in this week's episode. I will make a note of it below, sort of where I'm pointing, and then I will note and link everything in the description box, which you can find right below this video. So that's work in progress number 1, the Jelly Roll Blanket by Kay Jones. Work in progress number 2. This is a sweater dress that I had started working on before I had children. So I have a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl, and I had started on this, I'm going to guess, probably 10 years ago, if not even longer than that. This sweater dress is a Yarnspirations pattern made with Bernat roving. It's called the Slouchy Sweater Dress. It is a free pattern. I believe it's still on yarnspirations.com. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll show you a photo. I'll apologize because the printed pattern I have has been in a bag for 10 years. So here is the sweater dress. And like I said, this is a free pattern on yarnspirations.com. I have chosen to do it in the Flint colorway. So the colorway that they have here is called Putty. That's kind of their light gray color. I have chosen to do it in this colorway. It's called Flint. It's a dark charcoal gray. I have all of the sections of the dress so it is knit in pieces. So you knit the front, the back, the 2 sleeves, and then you piece it together. I have knit all the pieces and they are currently blocking so that I can sew them, mattress stitch the pieces together. I can sew them together. And then you pick up stitches for the neck. I believe what they have you do, I just sort of skimmed through it the other day. That's not the right page. I believe what you do is you actually pick up the front and the back and then you sew the thing together, which I'm probably not going to do. What I'll likely do is sew all the pieces of the dress together and then pick up the knitted, pick up the stitches for the neck and then just knit it as in the round. I think when I first decided that I was going to do this sweater, I wasn't as familiar with putting patterns together and being able to read my knitting. So I didn't particularly there's a basket weave pattern on the sweater, as I'm sure you can see here. The basket weave pattern is something that I can figure out how to knit in the round, but when I first started this sweater at least 10 years ago, I wasn't likely able to do that, is my guess. Because if I was to re-knit this today, if I was to knit this again, I would not do this in a flat and sew it together because I absolutely hate seaming. So I would likely figure out the pattern, knit, and then just modify it so that I could knit it in the round. Speaking of modifications, I did make one modification. This pattern has pockets. Again, back then I wasn't super keen on reading a pattern to include pockets, so I skipped over it, which I know now. I would not have skipped over that in my current knitting skill level. I would have definitely done the pockets, but at the time I probably wasn't feeling confident enough to do the pockets, which is silly because they're not that difficult. But anyway, and this pattern is really well written. It's very beginner friendly. It even has color coded. So if you pick a size, for example, I believe I chose the size large from my stitch counts, and each one is in a color code. So the smallest size is red, then orange, yellow, blue, red, pink. So it works out really well because you can follow along quite easily. So yeah, I'm going to be, hopefully it's blocking right now. I started it last night. It is still quite wet. The pattern asks you to put a wet blanket or a wet towel over it and block it, but I wet blocked the whole thing because I'm pretty sure when I started knitting this I was at least 2 to 3 sizes smaller than I am now. So I really wanted to aggressively block and make sure that it was going to stretch out as far as I could get it so that it'll actually fit me this time. This is a project that I mentioned way back when I did the 3Fs. Again, if you wish, you can go back and look and find the video called the 3Fs. Pardon me, it was finish it, frog it, or F it. So I decided to finish this one, even thinking, I was considering the fact that it might be too small for me. I think with the level of stretch that I was able to get out of the blocking yesterday, I think I'll be able to actually block it out, and I think I'll stretch it out enough that it will actually fit me. There will be negative E's, I believe, but I believe that's what it was intended to have anyway. So that's work in progress number 2. I'm really excited to have it mostly off the needles. Like I said, all I have to do is sew it together, which is a little bit of torture. But I just need to sew it together and then put the neckband, pick up stitches for the neckband and it's a big cowl neck, so I'm really excited about that. It will be the first time I've ever knit a neck like that. So that is work in progress number 2. Work in progress number 3. Drum roll, please. I finally, for those of you that have been here since July 17th of last year, I finally have done some work on my Flax Light. I believe now Tin Can Knits calls it a Flax sock. So this is a pattern by Tin Can Knits, one of my favorite pattern designing groups. Tin Can Knits is super, they have a lot of free patterns. They're very size inclusive. They have, at least I believe they're size inclusive. All the patterns I've ever seen are very size inclusive, so I would think so. They have really beginner friendly patterns. They're written really well. They have lots of really like schematics and photos, and they're just really well done. So the Flax Light is, or the Flax Sock, whichever you want to call it, is a sock weight sweater that is knit in the round from the top down. It's a raglan construction. One of my favorites. It is a free pattern, so if you want to go look it up, feel free. And if you are so inclined and you like electronic versions of things, the Tin Can Knits app is awesome. I follow along on it so that I know where I am in my decreases. It counts your repeats for you. It's really, really well done. I quite like that. But this is a Flax Light. I'm going to stand up so I can show it to you. I have one completed sleeve, which I did not have. I don't even remember the last time I showed this to you. But I completed one sleeve. And I am partway through the second sleeve. So I have one sleeve left to go, or three quarters of a sleeve left to go. This is knit with Polka Dot Creek fingering weight. I believe they're 75-25. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself, but I believe they're 75-25. Actually, I can find it right here. Yep, 75 superwash merino, 25% nylon, 100 grams, 463 yards, fingering weight 4-ply. So this is, I don't recall if I've said this already, this is in the eucalyptus colorway. And the light is a little bit bright, but I will show it to you in the skein as well. It is probably my favorite colorway by Polka Dot Creek. Polka Dot Creek, again, if you're new here, you have not heard me talk about before, but if you are not new here, you've heard me talk about them ad nauseum. Polka Dot Creek is my favorite yarn dyer in Airdrie, Alberta, Canada. Actually, also in Cochrane, Alberta, Canada. They have an online shop. They have 2 brick and mortar stores. One is freshly opened on August 3rd, I believe, was when Shelley opened the doors. Shelley is also just a wonderful human. If you're so inclined and you want to go watch the Easily Distracted by Yarn podcast, she does a lot of talking about her yarn bases, her dyeing, what she has coming up in the shops, what she's got available, and sort of gives you an idea of some of the things that she's got coming that you can purchase. They also talk about their whips and their finished objects and all that sort of thing too. Shelley is the idea generator. She's got all kinds of fun ideas. So if you're looking for things to follow along with, knit alongs and things like that, she's got, she usually has a few things like that on the go as well. But that was the Flax Light knit with 75-25 fingering weight from Polka Dot Creek in the eucalyptus colorway. Again, it was a Tin Can Knits pattern. I will say that I did make some modifications. I prefer a 2x2 rib, so I did 2x2 ribbing for the collar, the sleeves, and the hem. I also did, I omitted, there is a garter stitch panel that goes down the sleeve. I omitted the garter stitch panel altogether. I just wanted a plain classic raglan fingering weight sweater, so I omitted the garter stitch panel, and I believe that is the only modifications that I made for that. So those were my 3 works in progress. The next segment we're going to talk about, I don't have the items with me. My kids are wearing them actually at this point, so I will insert a photo right here of the wrist warmers. So I made a pair of wrist warmers for my daughter on my Sentro 22 needle knitting machine, and she wanted to have a section of gray and then a little section of pink, which worked out perfectly because it was what I had in my stash and was the yarn that would work on my Sentro. So I did those for her, a little section of gray and then a small section of pink. And then for my son, I did the exact same thing, a small section of gray, and then I had to hand knit because I'd already taken the gray off the Sentro knitting machine. I had hand knit 10 rows of the green. So again, I will have already, if not, I will again post a photo of those wrist warmers that my children wanted me to make for them. So those were my 2 finished objects in the segment called Yes By. I didn't explain Yes By is called, this is the segment's name because I get asked a lot, as I'm sure most of you do, get asked, did you make that, or where did you get that? When you say that you made it, people are like, holy cow, that's incredible. In Newfoundland, the term for holy cow, that's incredible is Yes By. So that's where that comes from. The next segment is called Twacking. Twacking is where we talk a little bit about shopping, what I've done to purchase anything. I will stand by the fact that I have not purchased anything. I did say that I haven't purchased anything in my last podcast. That's actually not true. I have purchased an advent calendar. I obviously just don't have it yet. But I have not purchased anything outside of the advent calendar this year. So I'm super proud of myself. I'm very, very, very happy with the fact that I have stayed my ground and I have decided that I will not be purchasing anything in the year 2024. I will be shopping from my stash, which I will say in this particular segment is very, very challenging for me because Knit City Calgary is in Calgary this coming weekend. So the day that I'm recording this is Thursday, and tomorrow night they are having the kickoff party with the Grocery Girls, the Saturday, Sunday marketplace, all the classes, and unfortunately I'm actually going to be out of town this weekend. So it's good for me because I won't go to Knit City Calgary and purchase a bunch of things that I don't need. But also, I'm missing Knit City Calgary. It's going to be the inaugural Knit City Calgary, and I'm not going to be there, and it breaks my heart to know that I won't actually be able to go and twack around, which is where the word twacking comes from. Twacking is where you go shopping with no real intention of buying anything. I don't want to say devastated because I'm going away with a group of girlfriends. And I'm very excited to go do that, and I do want to recharge and spend some time with some friends. But also, I am sad that I'm going to miss Knit City Calgary. So for anyone who's out there who might be local and might be watching, any of my knitting friends, if any of you do happen to go, feel free to take some photos and send them along my way. Send me some video or take some selfies in the Knit City areas in some of my favorite booths. If you go by Shelley, definitely somebody take a snapshot for me and say hi. Alright, so that is the twacking. Now to Once is the next segment. Now to Once is where we talk about what we're going to be doing, or what I'm going to be doing in a moment. So Now to Once in Newfoundland means the thing that I'm going to be up to in the next little while. So this is usually where I talk about future knitting or dream knitting or things like that. I've said it 100 times and I'll say it again. I want to make a skirt, and I really do want to make a skirt, and I found one by Knitatude that I really enjoyed, or at least it looks like it would be something that I would really enjoy. I think that it is it's the perfect knitted skirt. It looks like it's the perfect knitted skirt. I have really wide hips and wide thighs, so I just want to make sure that it's not going to end up looking like a pencil skirt, because that's not really what I'm into. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the pattern, so what I'll do is I'll research it and I'll put it here below. No, it's not coming to me. Anyway, I will put it here below, and again, it was by Knitatude, who is a local designer. She lives in Calgary. I will say that, I forgot to share that I didn't have a pattern for the wrist warmers. Sorry, my apologies. I also just realized I'm such a rookie. I didn't talk about my project bag or anything that my that my Flax light is in, so I'm just going to rewind for a second and I'll show you that. This is a knitting project bag by Her Leather Co. It is, I've talked about it in previous episodes. Her Leather Co. is another local maker. She is, Alyssa is located in Calgary area as well. So this is a leather project bag. It's one of my favorites. I absolutely love it, and the flax fits perfectly in there. The other project that I mentioned earlier was the Slouchy sweater dress, and that is upstairs on my floor, so it's not in a project bag. What else did I not mention? The wrist warmers had no pattern. Can you tell I'm at a practice? All right, we were back to Now to Once. Okay, Now to Once is where I talk about what I want to knit, and I was talking about the pattern by Chantel of Knitatude. I will have put the name of the pattern below. And I just decided that I want to have a look at it and see if it will be an appropriate fit for me. It has an elastic waistband, which most knitted skirts do. So that will work out really well in my favor. But again, with my really wide hips, I just want to make sure that the fit will be appropriate and it's not going to be too wide at the bottom and it doesn't look too much like a pencil skirt, too much negative ease. So I want to take a look at the pattern and see what that will end up looking like on my body type. If Chantel is watching this, she'll probably be yelling at the camera to tell me that, or yelling at the video to tell me that it works on every body type. I know when she did the crop top that she's recently released, and I can't remember the name of that one either. Anyway, again, I'll put that below, the crop top that she released. She talked about it being available for every body type and how it looks good on every body type, and she's not right. She's not wrong. I watched lots of reels where she had many different body types on it, and it does look good on everybody. I would never wear a crop top. That's just my personal choice, but it does look good on all body types. So or at least the body types that I saw that it was modeled on, it looked great. So maybe a skirt is in my future. We'll see. Excuse me. The next episode, or the next segment, is called Jiggs and Reels. Jiggs and Reels is where I talk about what I'm watching and what I'm listening to as far as music goes, as well as anything that I'm reading. I will start off with the two books which you've already heard about, which were The Briar Club by Kate Quinn and The Kingdom of the Blind by Louise Penny. I'm still reading both of those, really enjoying both of them. I don't believe since the last time I podcasted I've read any of the Louise Penny book, to be brutally honest with you. I'm pretty sure I've only read some of the Kate Quinn, The Briar Club, because it's not my copy, so I want to get it back to the person who lent it to me. The next thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to talk very briefly about, because I feel like I'm probably a little late to the party, but I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine, and a friend of mine and I went, and we had an absolute blast. If you're not familiar, Deadpool and Wolverine is a I would call it somewhat of a superhero movie. It does have a lot of violence and it can be pretty gruesome. It's also very vulgar. There's a lot of language in the movie, but I really, really enjoyed it. I find the humor, it's very dark humor, but I find it to be right up my alley, and for whatever reason, just what I need right now. So if you do go watch it and you think it is gruesome and disgusting, I apologize, but I thought it was hilarious. I won't spoil anything for you, but there's a particular character who reads minds by putting her hand through the brain, or like through their face, and she starts like looking around, and the artistry of, I'm assuming the makeup artist or the special effects, I'm not exactly sure how they did it, but it was absolutely incredible and really well done. That particular part of it, the fight scenes, I thought it was really, really great. We did see it in 3D, which I typically would not do, and I would not pay extra for, just for, again, just a personal choice. But I'm really glad that we did, because it was quite entertaining. I quite enjoyed it. The other thing that I wanted to share was what I'm listening to. This is a bit of a strange one. I've recently started listening more to the radio, and I don't recall if I've ever shared this with the podcast before, but I typically don't listen to the radio. I don't like listening to mainstream music. I don't like listening to sort of new anything. I'm very old school, and I like listening to what I know that I already like. But I have started listening to the radio. There's a radio station in a town nearby that they play sort of old classic rock. And I really just am enjoying the variety of things that they're playing that I don't normally listen to. So, again, strange little thing. I typically listen to my old iPod or CDs or something else, podcasts or whatnot, but I don't typically listen to the radio, but I have recently started re-listening to the radio, and I'm enjoying it. The next segment is called Best Kind. Best Kind is where we talk about the things that uplift me and bring me joy. I've already spoken about this already, but I'll briefly mention it again. Knit City Calgary is coming to Calgary, and I'm actually quite bummed that I'm going to miss it, but I wanted to mention it because it's those types of events that fill up my cup. So I typically would end up at Knit City Calgary, and I would be just enjoying the yarn fumes and spending time with people that enjoy the same things that I do. But I will not be going this year because I'm going to be spending the weekend with some girlfriends out at their campsite, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that is the reason I'm not going to Knit City Calgary, and the only reason I'm not going to Knit City Calgary. I am going to be enjoying some time to be reading and relaxing and spending time with friends and catching up with some girl talk, so I'm really looking forward to that. I mentioned this also, my mojo is coming back very slowly but surely. I'm really enjoying finishing projects, and so the two things that I talked about in finished objects in Yes By, the almost finished object with the sweater dress that is blocking currently. I'm really enjoying finishing things and getting things sort of feeling like I'm productive again. It feels really great. The last thing on my Best Kind, I want to do a shout out to a friend of mine, Kayla, who is Blue Magic Cars on Instagram. She lives in St. John's, Newfoundland, or in the surrounding area. And she posted on her Instagram the other day, for those of you that are maybe new to knitting, you might not know Joji Locatelli, but if you've been around for a little while, the name Joji Locatelli is like Tom Cruise in Hollywood. She is an absolute legend when it comes to pattern writing, and from what I can tell from any interactions I've ever had with her company or her patterns and whatnot, she's an absolute gem. Kayla, my girlfriend from St. John's, she posted the other day that Joji Locatelli and her and another knitting friend were out doing some sightseeing in St. John's, and I just thought that was, although I was, to be fairly honest, pretty jealous about Kayla hanging out with Joji Locatelli. It was so great and so heartwarming to see the knitting community come together, and it feels like such a small world. So one of my good friends from school, Kayla, is in St. John's, Newfoundland. One of my very good friends from university, my fourth year university roommate, Anna, runs the Long Way Homestead, who got a shout out on Andrea Mowry's podcast. The love and the joy that brings me, I just think that is the most wonderful thing. So great little pick-me-ups for me to see that Kayla hanging out with Joji and Anna getting a shout out on the I'll Knit If I Want To podcast with Andrea Mowry. So really great things that have filled up my cup over the last little while, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me. These things are friends of mine or acquaintances or, both of the two girls are friends of mine. So anyway, I just thought that was absolutely wonderful. Okay, I think I've covered it all. We don't have much time left to do, looks like my battery is blinking, so I will make this one quick. Until next time, keep living your best life and filling up your cup. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Sorry, I'm a bit out of practice. Until then, stay where you're to till I comes where you're at. Bye.